Ladies and gentlemen.
I haven't really heard what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings right in my ear.
Introduce.
This is a guy that's going to be traded, though.
You're an announcer with a long stick from time to time.
You think it's my fault? Is that what you're saying? This guy's such an idiot here.
The Puck Luck Fantasy Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Luck Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Sudemans, and today I'll be breaking down the 2-game slate that goes across today and tomorrow. Make sure to check out our website, puckluckfantasy.com. You can find all of our player rankings, our goalie rankings, lots of great tools that'll help you build your lineups. And actually, today we have a big upgrade, as if you are watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see that we are actually showing a new window that has our website live. So as we're going through these games, we'll now be able to sort of point out any players that we see, anything that we notice, right, and you'll be able to see right on our website. So if you aren't watching, make sure you go over to our website or our YouTube channel and subscribe so you can follow along that way. And with that being said, I'm just going to jump into the first game of the night. So we're going to go to we're going back to the Jets arena here, where we have the Knights, who are on the road with Fleury, coming in against Hellebuck. And so tonight in general for goalies is another night where you can pretty much play any of the goaltenders. It's been working out pretty well because they're all pretty close in terms of value. So for cash, there's been just a few like goalies that have a slight edge, but for tournaments, you can really play anyone. And that's really been working out for me, especially when you can use some of those goaltenders with those very contrarian stacks like the Ovechkin stack. So stuff like that has been working out very well, and it's nice that you can use any of the goaltenders, and that is once again the case. So for tournaments, definitely you can go with any of these goalies. For cash, once again, tonight I'm going to have to go give it to Connor Hellebuck, so he gets my edge in terms of my best cash goalie, but just by a tiny amount. All right, jumping into the players from this game, we can see here on the website. The only thing that I should mention right now is that the columns are still not quite up to date. So this column labeled fantasy points, that's actually their value. So we're sorting by value here for our line stacks. And we can see that there are a couple stacks that pop up. The top 2 here being the top 2 lines for Vegas. So we like both so the second line, once again, gets a tiny edge on the top line. So this is the line with James Neal, Erik Haula, and David Perron. So they're still getting a lot of ice time, I noticed, and they're still generating a lot of chances. So hopefully they'll be very lower owned, and they go well. They are nice because you can pair them with a much more expensive stack. So they're a great sort of pivot play once you get those main stacks that are sort of more expensive, maybe like the Stamkos stack that you could pair them up with. And then you can finally get that sort of salary relief, and you still can take advantage of most of that value. So I really like that second line there. But then I also do like the top line for Vegas. In particular, I do like Riley Smith and Marchessault a little bit more than William Karlsson. Karlsson is just still a tad overpriced, and the other two are both pretty underpriced according to the models. So that's really where I'm going to be targeting for this game on the Las Vegas side of things. If we take a look at the defensemen here, as usual, Colin Miller is popping right up at the top, especially when he's getting that power play time on the second unit there. So he pairs well with the second line. Then we can also go right to Shea Theodore. So that's another great play, and he pairs extremely well with the top line. So if you're going to be pairing the defensemen, those would be the main ones. Schmidt is usually the other guy I look for. There he is. Oh, Nate Schmidt. So he's a little bit lower. So I would mainly stick with Colin Miller tonight, or then go to Shea Theodore if you're going with the top line. Let's take a look on the other side. So let's look at the Jets and see if they have anyone that really pops up. Really not too much, actually. So the top one being the top line for the Jets, they're really more of the bubble play. So I might get like 1 or 2 with them, since they are still very expensive. So I usually gets them a little bit of a boost there. So I'll be targeting just a tiny bit of the top line. and then really going to be sort of fading the second line. I do tend to like that second line of the Jets, but they're just getting a little bit too much respect with Las Vegas's defense. It was mainly the top line that sort of broke through in the first game. Laine did get the goal there, and so hopefully they'll be a little bit more quiet than they were the first game. But really, I'll be getting just a little bit of exposure to them. You can once again look for the defenseman, Dustin Byfuglien, right up there at the top. So that's just in terms of points. But if we go to in terms of actual value, Byfuglien's still right up there. In terms of any other Winnipeg players. So we still like Tyler Myers. So he's right up there as well. So that's another good play. And that's really the main defenseman. Sometimes we look for Trouba, but if he's up there again, but he doesn't usually get the power play time. So that makes that sort of makes him more of a cash play for sure, as you kind of want a little bit of a higher ceiling with a potential goal for your tournament plays in general. But he's still definitely a solid cash play if you need to dip down that far. But I do tend to try to stick a little bit higher in terms of value for cash games. All right, and that will actually wrap things up for this first game. So let's move on to the second game of the night. So this game we have, we're going to Washington now, where Vasilevsky will be facing off against Braden Holtby. And so we saw that Washington was able to come down to Tampa Bay and take 2 games on the road, which not too many people expected, including myself. But that was okay because I was able to hedge a lot on the Ovechkin line since they were right up there near the top of our rankings, and that worked out extremely well for me. They were very low owned, and Holtby especially, so that worked out pretty well for a couple of small tournaments there. And then once again today, they're back in Washington. So I was looking individually, and let me just pull that up for our value here, and we can see Ovechkin is the second overall guy and that is quite something with that huge salary that he also has. But we're expecting him to be right up near the top again. So I'm going to be targeting him, especially when he's at home now. So he'll be able to really get to see the Tampa Bay depth. It'll be interesting to sort of see what the matchups are. I'm not 100% sure because we're still not 100% sure if Backstrom is back. And even if he is back, I'm not sure exactly if they're going to be trying to get the Ovechkin line away from the checking line of Tampa Bay, that point line, or what they're really going to be doing. So I really haven't been applying too much of any line matching stats. So it's really just seeing a little bit of everyone, assuming at this point. So really, Ovechkin is going to be right up there. He's going to be one of my top picks of the day. That's for sure. I do like Kuznetsov in terms of centerman, so that's where you sort of drop off in value. Our model doesn't like him quite as much at that price. He's up to 6.3, but we still do like Wilson. Actually, Wilson is not really showing up at the top here either, so we're not really going to go. So really, I like Ovechkin is the main one from that line, but if you do have to go with the full stack, that could work, and you can definitely go to John Carlson because he is right up there in terms of value for a defenseman. Even though he's coming back up in price now, he's still only at 5.7, which we still do like him at that range. So he goes well with the top line, or even if you just want to do Carlson with Ovechkin, that's always a great pair. In terms of any of the other lines from with Washington, that's really the main one I'll be targeting. Oh, I do see that our model does like that second line. So if we do get Lars Eller in there with TJ Oshie and Jacob Vrana, that's another solid play. And they're a lot cheaper too. So you can pair them with one of the more expensive lines and they would work extremely well. They maybe could go with Vegas there because then you can get that differentiation of the two different teams. So they are another great play, especially, so if Backstrom's out, Eller has been in the first power play spot, as well as he's getting a lot of time on even strength, and he's been getting goals, so that's really where I've been focusing, especially for my cash value, and it has been paying off, which is nice. Sometimes they don't tend to do anything, even though they're getting that extra ice time, but it has been one of those cases where he has stepped up and gotten a few goals, which has been very nice. So hopefully that will continue. Then we can finally move on to the Tampa Bay side here. So Let me just pull up. So we have, once again, we're going to be focusing on the second line for Tampa Bay in terms of the top value line. So Braden Point, Andre Palat, and Tyler Johnson. Braden Point has been moved up to the top power play line. So him individually, he's worth quite a bit. Their prices have been rising like crazy, but we still really do like them. They're really producing like crazy, and we still think they're very undervalued. So I'm going to be, once again, targeting that Braden Point and their whole line in particular. I'm also going to be using a lot of Victor Hedman tonight. And once again, I'm going to be getting a lot of the Tampa Bay's top line. So with Stamkos, Kucherov, and Miller. So they're right up there at the top of they're at the fourth overall, which is pretty high for them. They are pretty expensive once again. So I'll be targeting them heavily. And like I said, be plugging in Victor Hedman. So you can see he's right at the top of the, in terms of overall fantasy points, but also if we sort by value, Victor Hedman's third overall there. So I really like Victor Hedman pairing with either of those lines. And that will do it for these games. So I'm going to wrap it up and move on to our Puck Luck picks of the day. So this is where I give you 3 players in sort of 4 different tiers of pricing that you can play. That will be good in terms of value. So right at the top, I'm going to go with Alex Ovechkin today. So he's 7.8, but they're at home. So hopefully he'll be getting some very good matchups. So that's my top in terms of the expensive player. In sort of that medium to expensive, I'm going to go with Jonathan Marchessault. He's at 6.3K. In terms of a sort of medium to cheaper pick, I'm going to go with Kyle Connor on the Jets. And then in terms of sort of a really cheap pick, I'm going to go with David Perron again. And then in terms, my favorite overall stack of the night is going to be that second line for Tampa Bay, the one with Point on it and a Johnson and Palat. And then my favorite mini stack is going to be Carlson and Ovechkin. All right, and that will wrap things up. Just going to remind you to once again check out our website, puckluckfantasy.com. Also, make sure you follow us on Twitter and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.